meeting. Like I said, you've got everything, so.
Sure. Yeah, just for everybody here, we got Tony here's the council president, and Jeff is also another council member. Tony can't be here, and it looks like Mike also is not here. Mark Sullivan is not here. Ed Peters worked for Midwestern, and Christy Gerald is here as well, the grant administrator on the project. I think we got a small enough group here. You guys want to introduce yourselves too and who you're with?
Christy Shield Contracting.
Brandon Spears, Utility Supply Company.
Bill Marshall, Power.
Okay, appreciate you guys coming. I'm gonna probably stick to the agenda for the most part. If you guys have questions, we'll take them there at the end. Anything really that we say here has got to be substantiated with an addendum afterwards in writing. So we'll take questions, and if we feel like we need to put out an addendum item, if there needs to be one, we will. For the rest of the bid plant holders there. The project description here, the Division 1 is kind of the main division of the project. It's a new 100,000 gallon elevated storage tank that's going to go just west of the town, and the demolition of the 50,000 gallon elevated storage tank that's right next to the Legion here. Division 2, 6-inch, mostly 6-inch water main, around 3,300 foot of 6-inch water main. Several looping connections, mostly along Water Street, or where most of the loops are, and then there's also a replacement of a 2-inch water main that's in the alleyway behind the gas station there. Can't really remember that. I think it's Green to Adams. And then there's also the second big portion of that. So there's the water mains. There's the water meter replacements. So the town's got some existing meters that they don't currently read, and that were installed like 20 years ago or so, and now they're gonna come back through and replace most of the meters in the existing meter pits. And then the third thing is there's some alternates there for alternate connection piping details over there at the tank. The funding for this project, it's kind of a group of different funds. The town of Perrysville is putting in some of their local town funds from their capital improvements funds, that kind of thing. The Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs, which most people call OCRA, is going to have a grant, and Christy will talk a little bit more about them here in a second. And then the Indiana Finance Authority Rural Loan Fund, the IFA, or you'll typically hear it called SRF, State Revolving Fund. They're putting in I shouldn't call it a low interest, just a loan for the remainder. So kind of that's the three portions of that. So with that, there is some federal and state funding requirements as part of this. With that, I'll turn it over to Christy. She handed out a pre-bid conference guide here for the Okra portion of the project.
So, as we'll get to in a second, bids are due by July 31st. It's a Thursday at 7 p.m. here in this building. A final wage decision will be pulled by Midwestern on July 25th and put out into addendum that day. So just look out for that. You guys have done federally funded projects with me before, so we're not going to read the packet, but you will have to submit certified payrolls weekly. Buy American, Build American is on there. Section 3, if at any time you have any job openings, if you are chosen as the most responsive, lowest bidder contractor, you'll have to open those up to Section 3 workers. We will open bids on the 31st. Ed will recommend that council take those under advisement. We'll go back and do all the checks, and then we cannot sign a construction contract until we get Okra release of funds, which means we have to close on the SRF loan. So that's going to be what we don't even have that scheduled date yet.
Towards the end of September.
Yeah, is what we're looking at. We can hold bids for 90 days, and keep the same wage decision. So, do you guys have any questions about Okra or SRF or anything?
Okay. So time for completion here in the construction contracts, Division 1, the tank division, we had 330 days for substantial completion, 360 days for final completion from the notice to proceed. The Division 2, the water mains project, we had 150 days for substantial and 180 days for final. Wage provisions, as Christy mentioned, Davis-Bacon wage rates are applicable in this case. The specifications have the last June wage decision, and we'll put the July 25th wage decision in an addendum that last week before this bids. Bonding requirements, bid bonds required is 5% of the bid, and that can be a check, money order, or a certified bond. The performance and payment bonds are 100% of whatever the bid amount chosen is. The bid proposal for both divisions is kind of broken down into what I'm going to call a unit price type look. There's not any just like one lump sum cost in there. There is on the elevated tank portion, it's mostly lump sum unit costs. So we've kind of broken that down pretty far already. In the end, we might break down the tank division into even further once we select a contractor, but the Division 2, the water mains, will probably not change. The land here, so for the tank property, the town actually owns the tank site, and then there's some temporary easement around the tank site to put up the tank. For the water mains, a lot of it is on county road right-of-way. Anywhere that it's not on county road right-of-way, the town's got easements for, which is just one spot there for the, there's a check valve vault out on the highway, real close to the tank site. And then there's some temporary easements that are along the route there for the alleyway, because it does get kind of tight with right-of-way there. The alleyway's pretty narrow. But there is a few temporary easements that we've gotten where we felt like there's some room in backyards through there. I think that's pretty well it on the property. The town owns the existing water storage tank site as well, so that's that. Permits, there's a bunch of them here. Not all of them are applicable to both divisions, so maybe just for Division 1, the tank division. For that division, we had the item general construction permit, and then FAA determination there of no hazard to air navigation. So the FAA determined we didn't have to put any obstruction lighting on the tank. For the water mains division, we had the item general construction permit, an NDOT occupancy permit for the crossing of 32 there, and then also for paralleling 32 along the state right-of-way out by the tank site. Vermilion County Highway Department for the occupation of their right-of-way. Water Street is actually a county road right-of-way. And then I do have on here that the contractor is responsible for the construction stormwater general permit, or CSGP, and making a SWIP plan, or stormwater pollution prevention plan, if it's applicable. And you guys can look online, but the applicability there is normally if the disturbance is greater than 1 acre. The acreage for the tank site, it's listed on the plans, it's less than an acre. If you need more than what's listed, then that would be where you would get into that. The water mains, it's mostly disturbance on a lot of it's in county roads and stuff, so you're not going to be disturbing a huge swath of ground there. So up to you to calculate there how much you feel like you're going to disturb when you're putting those in. But both of them, I believe, were under that threshold the way I looked at it. Plans. There's plans for both divisions. We haven't put out an addendum on anything yet, so those are what goes for now. Specifications. Christy already mentioned 7 p.m. here local time in the same building we're in now. On July 31st is when the bids will be open at a public meeting. Bids will be accepted all the way up until that public meeting, but after that time, then we'll close that and bids will be returned unopened. The bid hold period is 90 days in this case, and we will likely use most of that 90 days. Like I said, or Christy said, the SRF loan's closing towards the end of September there, so I would expect that would be held for between 60 and 90 days. The special conditions section, there is a few on there that I wanted to note. There's a property owner certification. Everybody would have to get that signed if they're going to take any material from either the tank site or the water mains. They need to get that signed before they take it to an off-site location and dump it. There's no field office requirements, no job trailers. That's completely up to you guys what you want to provide there for your job sites. There is going to have to be a board that has the permits posted, as well as some of the federal wage rate requirements there. So I think a lot of times, Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's a linear project, a lot of times they can keep them sometimes in their trucks, job trailers.
Yep.
But you might look into it if you're on the tank division side, going ahead and putting up a board at the site. American Iron and Steel, and kind of kicking off that too, BABA, the Build America, Buy America, both of those are applicable through OCRA, SRF. There's no getting around it, so that's going to be, there's certifications in the specs. Every piece of material on these projects is going to have a BABA certification applicable to the SRF project and turned in with the submittals. So just pointing that out too. Items of concern on here, I had likely start date for start of construction. As I mentioned, the loan's closing towards the end of September. At the very end of September, I would imagine that the pre-construction meeting will happen sometime in October, and that's probably when the notice of proceeds will be issued as well. So I would look sometime mid to late October, early November is likely when a notice to proceed would be issued. Coordination of work with the owner. So the owner doesn't have any of their own staff to maintain the water mains, that kind of thing. So there is going to have to be some assistance from the contractor on shutting down valves, that kind of thing, helping operate the system there to make the connections, that kind of thing. So I know that's a little bit different than a lot of projects where, it's kind of like if you break it, you buy it as a contractor. In this case, we'll talk with the town, but there is going to have to be some help there because there's no permanent employees here at the town for that. I believe you guys have, whenever you call an 811 locates, is that a contractor that you normally have locate your mains for you?
Yes.
Okay. We might put his number out as an addendum. We can talk about that afterwards. But typically, like the 811 locate process here, they don't have anybody that locates it for them in town, so it's a contractor that does the locating for them. Property owners and easements, access to water main, tank locations. Tank location, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty good access there off of I would always access that site off the town street and not off the state right-of-way. That's where we're going to put in the temporary drive and the final drive, access drive there, so that's where I do that. The other places, like I said, we don't have easements for the water street, so try to stay in street right away where you can. Negotiation with the property owners for rights of entry, that kind of thing, are on you guys, unless there's something that somebody asked us about before the bid opening, if you're worried about a specific property, for example. And then down the alleyway, we understand it's tight. Like we said, we've got temporary easements where we can through there where we feel like it would help you out a little bit with space. Lay down yard areas. The tank site's going to be a good lay down yard for that project. Like I said, we went and got the temporary construction easement. It's a pretty big square there for any lay down. Up to the Division 2 contractor to negotiate if they can use some of that laydown area for their project with the Division 1 contractor. Other than that, it's kind of on you guys. I don't know if the town necessarily has any real great spots for laydown. The town doesn't, you guys don't own this Legion building, do you?
No.
The town doesn't own the American Legion here, so that parking lot would have to be negotiated through the Legion. But yeah, negotiation to lay down yard areas or lay down areas is kind of on the contractor on this one. Continue operation of existing mains during construction period. We understand on the Division 2 project, the water mains division, most of these are dry taps, so there is gonna have to be some downtime. Just ask that gets coordinated with the town so they can send out notices beforehand. Definitely can't have the water out overnight kind of situation here, so we need whatever connection needs to be made, during a work day and back in service by the evening. Disturbed areas restored and reseeded. Anywhere that's a yard area that we're gonna tear up, especially along Water Street there, needs to go back and get reseeded. If it takes temporary reseeding, that's kind of on you guys. We'll just pay for the reseeding and strawing one time at the end of the project. So if you have a property owner that's giving you difficulties and you got to do a temporary seed and straw for whatever reason this winter, we'll get it you paid for the spring restoration when the grass comes up, but not the temporary stuff. Okay, I think that's all I had on the official agenda. I'll open it up for questions if you guys got any or concerns. Okay.
We need low bids.
Sharpen your pencils. Site visit. I'm around if anybody wants to check out anything with me. Just flag me down. But yeah, I mean, everything's here in town, so if you want to look at anything and have any questions, just give me a call. My number for you guys, if you don't have it, is 812-393-9675.
Can we direction for this menu?
Yes, I will say you can, but the cost is gonna be for open cut, so.
So, you're gonna pay me for the stone and everything if I directional bore? Or you just gonna pay me for the lay of the pipe? I put 0 in my stone and I get all my numbers on my pipe, which way we go?
I'll talk with these guys about that. If I honestly didn't think somebody would be, I thought it would be more cost effective, but,
Directional bore 6-inch?
4 and 6 inch almost cheaper to bore anymore.
Yeah, cheaper, or if it's anything bigger.
we'll talk about maybe taking an alternate for that.
Sure.
If that's something you guys are interested in,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We
Okay.
make less mess and be in and out of here.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. Get on an addendum on it. If I didn't realize that you guys would be that. You never know with rock, but you talk to some of the old timers around here, they do say that there's some rock in here, so.
Yeah, I will say, keep in mind, we have rock outcroppings. Some of our stuff is not very deep because it's setting on solid stone. So I don't know how well directional bore can deal with that.
But yeah, if that is something you guys are interested in, we'll definitely talk about it for sure. I didn't even get your name there when you first
Bill
came
Marsh.
in. Bill Marsh.
Yeah. No.
Miller, yeah. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys coming, taking your time.
Thank
You guys got anything else? Okay.